Alright, so I totally did not cut the video to use ChatGPT to generate an example to make up for my lack of creativity. I definitely did not do that, right? So let's suppose that I didn't do that. No, I did not do that at all. Of course not. So let's suppose that we have this example, right? That ChatGPT definitely did not generate for me. A vacuum, right? So imagine having a vacuum robot, right? A vacuum is an AI, like an AI little robot that can vacuum your entire home, right? So let's suppose that this vacuum robot, I don't know if this is how you spell vacuum? I hope so. Like, it wants to basically, let's suppose we have two scenarios, right? It's cleaning stuff, it's cleaning your home. And then there's the scenario where the vacuum, oh my goodness, stop. And the vacuum is running out of battery, right? So those are the two scenarios, let's suppose, right? All right, so we have the scenario where it's cleaning my home, and we have the scenario where it's actually running out of the battery. So right now we're still going to be doing some deterministic programming because I need to explain a concept before we get to structured randomness. So bear with me. In fact, I'm going to do this in a separate code cell just so I don't confuse you. So we'll get back to this guy over here. This is very important. But first I need to teach you the while loop. So imagine that we have a scenario where a robot, let's suppose the battery is at 5%, I don't know. So the while loop, this is what the while loop does. So first, let's think in terms of pseudocode. Watch my previous video where I talk about what pseudocode is. Pseudocode is just how would you instruct the program in natural language, right? So I would probably say, okay, so I have a variable called battery that's storing 5, right? 5 is my battery level, 5%, let's say, 10%, whatever. So I'm telling the computer, hey, while this, I don't know, battery variable is greater than 0, I want you to continue cleaning. Otherwise, I want you to return to your charging station, right? So the robot can actually start charging itself. So these are the two scenarios. How can we actually code this in Python? If you remember this, otherwise, it's very similar to the else. I'll get to that. So if I'm going to code this in Python, this is how you would code it out in Python. You write while, so you don't have to say hey, or you just say while battery, right, this variable up here, while battery is greater than, but you don't write greater than. How do you write greater than in Python? Well, there are a couple symbols, right? We already know that equals, so this is the equal sign. So this is the equal sign in Python. So this is the equal sign. This means that if once this guy over here is the same as this other guy over here, right? That's what the equal sign is telling me. It's the same as. So equal is just telling me is the same as this other guy, right? So this guy over here, or this variable, or the data, let's say the data in this variable is the same as this value, right? So again, up here, this variable, whatever data is inside this variable, which is up here by the way, is the same as this value right here. Are they the same as this guy over here? Well, no, they're not the same. So this guy over here is not going to print. Same thing with these guys. They're not going to print because if Python is going to compare this value with the actual value of the variable sensor, it's not going to print, right? So it's just going to print this. It's going to say, okay, then whatever it is, whatever the value is, let's just explode the car. So that's what we explained last time. This time, we're not talking about is the same as. We're talking about greater than. So what is the symbol that represents greater than? Well, the symbol that represents greater than is this symbol right here. So the data that is in this variable, what variable are we talking about? We're talking about battery. So the data that is in the variable battery is going to be greater than what value? Than 0. So let's suppose it's 0. Right? It could be anything you want, right? In our example, we're going to say 0. So while the battery is greater than 0, that's how you write it in Python. Don't forget the colon sign. You press enter so it automatically detects the indentation, right? Otherwise, if you don't have indentation, Python is going to explode. You have to have the indentation. So while this is greater than 0, then let's just print something. Let's just print a message, right? No fancy coding. Let's just print a message just to get a point across. Just continue cleaning, right? I want you to continue cleaning. Continue cleaning. Let's say continue cleaning. All right, cool. Continue cleaning. Great. Obviously, the battery is going to run out eventually, right? So let me just actually, this is the pseudocode. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to copy this up here, and I'm going to delete this cell. Okay. We have our variable assigned with 5. While battery is greater than 0, it's going to continue cleaning. Great. What happens if so otherwise, print, I need to return to dock, or, yeah, return to the docking station. Or not the docking, return to the charging station, right? So that's the other scenario that we want, right? So if the battery is greater than 0, while the battery, not if, while, so I'm going to explain why I'm using while and I'm not using if. So if I were to use if battery is greater than 0, it's going to print this. So let me just run this. So here it's printing both messages because I forgot to add the else statement, right? Here it's not going to work because there's no indentation. So I have to add the indentation. Now it's working, right? This is the if-else statement we were talking about last time. Now, what the heck is the while? So while this is true, as long as battery is greater than 0, I want to continue printing out this value. So this is going to go infinite. So my Jupyter Notebook is probably going to crash because it's just never going to stop because battery is equal to 5. So let me just stop it right here. And yeah, my Jupyter Notebook is about to crash. Let me just stop it. No. Stop. Terminate. Stop. Okay. Don't crash. Don't crash on me. Don't crash on me. Yeah. I already knew this was going to happen. Okay, there we go. Finally, it stopped. Okay. So you just want to terminate that. If you did that, by the way, make sure to press interrupt the kernel so it doesn't just continue ad infinitum and it just crashes your... but it's fine. That's the important thing to know about while loops. While loops can create... So in a while loop... So, okay, let me just delete this cell because... Okay. There we go. In a while loop, as long as this statement is true, right? As long as this statement is true, which it is, by the way, because 5 is still equal to 5, which is greater than 0, will always be equal. It will always be greater than 0. This is going to print infinitely. This is why this is called a while loop. That's why it's a loop. It's a loop. It repeats. A loop is just a statement that repeats an action. You're telling the computer to repeat this action for how many times you want it to repeat the action. Right here, I'm telling the computer to repeat this action right here as long as this guy is true. And because this guy is always going to be true, then it's going to continue printing this action forever, right? It's called an infinite loop, and it's a common error in programming, infinite loops. Infinite loops, you don't want infinite loops, right? So, how can we fix this? Because clearly our battery is not always going to be equal to 5. Our battery is eventually going to run out. So, what we can do is we can change the variable. We can say that every time this statement executes, every time the robot continues to clean, it's obviously going to run out of battery. So we could say that the battery is, we're going to change the value. We're going to change the value by how much? Let's say that for every time it prints continue cleaning, it's going to run out of battery by 1 point, let's say. How do we actually put that in code? Well, I'm just going to redefine it. So I'm going to say that battery, I'm going to say that battery is going to equal to, it's not going to, no, not equal to. I'm going to assign the value of battery again, which is 5, right? Minus 1 point. Oh, sorry, 1 point. So what's happening here? Python is going to be like, okay, so battery is equal to 5. Interesting. Is this statement true? Is battery greater than 0? Oh, yes, it is. Battery is greater than 0 because if I look at the data, it's 5 and 5 is greater than 0. That's true. Okay, if that's true, that means I'm going to print this statement. Okay, I printed the statement. Now what do? I have to read the second line. The second line within this scope, by the way. This is called the scope. The scope within the while loop. This is why indentation is important, because it tells Python what is the scope of this while loop block. So it's going to print this statement, and it's going to go read the next line deterministically, and it's going to do this action. What is this action doing? This action is saying, okay, well, I know that battery right now is equal to 5, so I am going to assign 5 back to the battery variable, but I'm not going to assign 5. I'm going to assign 5 minus 1. So I'm actually assigning 4 to the battery variable. That's what's happening. So because this is a loop, it's going to continue repeating this entire process. It's going to check the result again, and it's going to be like, okay, what is my battery value now? It's not going to read this guy again, by the way. We're in the while loop scope, so it's only going to be the loop is only repeating within whatever the loop is only going to be repeating whatever is in the scope. So it's going to be repeating the loop inside the scope. It's not going to go all the way back up here. No, it's going to be repeating only what's within the scope. Let's ignore this else statement for now. So it's going to go back up, and it's going to be like, okay, so battery is now equal to 4, and 4 is still greater than 0. So let's continue cleaning. And let's repeat the same process again. 4 minus 1 is 3. So we're assigning 3 back to the battery variable. Let's start again. Compare 3 with 0. 3 is still greater than 0. Until eventually, battery is going to be equal to 1. And it's going to be like, okay, yeah, 1 is still greater than 0. So let's continue cleaning. Let's assign 1 minus 1 to battery. So now battery is equal to what? 0. So now when it restarts the loop, it's going to compare 0 with 0. Is 0 greater than 0? No. That's not true. So it's not going to repeat these actions again. It's going to exit out of the loop, which is what we want. We don't want an infinite loop again. It's going to exit out of the loop, and it's going to exit out of the scope of loop. So the computer program is not going to repeat this loop right here. It's now going to exit out and continue whatever comes next. So because it's automatically going to continue whatever comes next, we don't have to define the else statement here if we don't want to. We don't have to. It's very redundant. So I could just simply say print return to the charging station. So let's try this out. There we go. So continue cleaning, continue cleaning, continue cleaning, continue cleaning, continue cleaning. Oh, battery is now at 0. Let's return to the charging station. That is the essence of the while loop. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about structured randomness. So we're gonna be going back to this idea of structured randomness. But I first wanted to introduce the while loop because it's a very, very important concept in Python programming. With that being said, done. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, this is part of our AI Unlocked series where we go from 0 all the way to 100, where we basically learn how AI works as if we were inventing AI ourselves with 0 background, 0 programming background, 0 math background. We're trying to dive deep into the concepts. We're imagining like, okay, if we had to start from 0, if society didn't invent AI, if we didn't have ChatGPT right now or none of these things, how would you invent AI, right? From with 0 programming experience, just with the basics of Python, how can we slowly build ourselves to actually building an entire neural network from scratch or building an entire transformer from scratch? The algorithm that powers ChatGPT. How would we do that, hypothetically? That's what the series is about, by the way. If you enjoyed it, like it, share it, comment. If you want to see some stuff, some cool stuff or whatever, just comment. You know, just if you have some questions, comment. If you have some critiques, comment. If you have some suggestions, comment. If you know anybody who's also interested in this, share the video. And please subscribe, man. Like, if this is something that you enjoy, subscribe. Yeah, because this is something that we're doing weekly, on a weekly basis. I'm trying to, like, upload at least 2 to 3 videos each week. So this is something that we're going to be continuing for the rest of the year, and whoever knows how long this is going to take. So with that being said, thanks. Bye.